Michael, day one of training camp here in Victoria, BC, a gorgeous day. And before we get to the Raptors specifically, we should just talk about the history of basketball in this city, and obviously then what a perfect spot for Toronto to land.
It really is, and you got to give credit to the Raptors. They've made an effort of moving the franchise around or the team around in training camp, and spent a lot of time in Vancouver, been to Halifax. But Victoria is a very special place in the history of Canadian basketball, and in the 1980s, you had the super powerhouse UVic basketball teams coached by Ken Shields, and they had a direct influence on a guy named Steve Nash, who grew up here and called Victoria home for a long time. And I think to bring the Raptors here and kind of bring those two elements of Canadian basketball together is really fitting.
Now, not a ton of questions surrounding the Raptors as they open up camp, but one of the things that we should touch on, and will continue to do so over the course of the week, is what might happen at that small forward position, especially in the starting unit. Does Dwayne Casey go with C.J. Miles or with Norm Powell? Because either player then certainly will impact who is at the coach's disposal when he looks to that second unit.
And I think really what's going to make the decision there is going to be fit, because you more or less know who the other four people in the starting lineup are going to be, and it's Serge Ibaka, Jonas Valanciunas, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. I think they'll be starting again. And so it's going to be which skill set, either one that C.J. Miles brings, that really experienced perimeter shooting, versus Norm Powell, that kind of ability to shoot a bit but also create, get to the rack with some force, which fits better. And if I actually had to bet, I think C.J. Miles might be an easier fit because of the amount of ball that Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan command. And then, of course, that does affect the second unit, but that is going to be something that's you're going to have to watch in training camp. Not one guy's a better player than the other, who complements the other guys on the floor better.
All right, let's just assume for a second, just for argument's sake, that it is C.J. Miles. It does make the second unit very young, not a lot of veteran presence at all. So I'll bring up another young guy, a guy that we've differed on, at least in our opinions, over the last couple of seasons. Is this the year that maybe Bruno Caboclo steps up and grabs some minutes? Because there are question marks when you look beyond Miles, beyond Norm Powell, at that three spot. Andy Routens, could he steal a spot in training camp? Of course, KJ McDaniels brought in. But there could be an opportunity for Bruno to finally step up.
There is one. I mean, I think technically still 1 year away from being 1 year away. I mean, he's made great strides. I'm a big believer in his talent and the long-term potential of us, who's still a very young player. I think to expect him to come and earn a rotation spot on a team that's expected to be as competitive as the Raptors are is probably a bit soon. But with O.J. Anunoby injured, there is some extra opportunities there, and I think everyone concerned, including Bruno Caboclo, would like to see him use this camp to stand up, put his hand up, and say, listen, I'm ready for an opportunity.
2 practices for the Raptors on day one of training camp. The first of 2-a-days going this afternoon, and then later on this week, a chance for the fans in Victoria to see the Raptors in scrimmage up close and personal.